Part 104. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1031. Chapter 1031. Attention. Wow, there's also perfume. She looked at him expectantly with bright eyes. Pei Xian laughed. What are you thinking? You are only 12 years old. It is too early to use perfume. He liked her fresh and natural smell, with a bit of shower gel and floral and fruity fragrance, a unique sweet smell. Xiaoling was not very happy, but Pei Jingshan is also 12 years old, and she already wears perfume. Pei Xian scratched her little nose. No. You, brother Pei is a bad guy. She blinked aggrievedly. He laughed again. There's no point in crying. Okay. Seeing that he wouldn't let go, she reluctantly gave up the idea of perfume, and then looked over and over at the silk scarf in her hand. It's so beautiful. As she said this, she ran to the mirror, posed several poses in front of the mirror, turned around and asked him, "Does it look good?" The child's mood changes so quickly. 1 second he felt like he was about to cry, but the next second he was smiling as if he had the sunshine in the world. Pei Xian looked at her with deep eyes and said in a warm voice, "You look good no matter how you dress up." She became even happier and turned around again and made several gestures. Hands of gestures. Suddenly he felt unhappy again. "Brother Pei," she said, "I want to go to the hospital to see Xiao and tell her the good news that I have become a famous lady in midsummer. I want to bring her a gift, but there is only one such beautiful silk scarf." She lowered her head, reluctant to give up. I stared at the silk scarf for a long time. Pei Xian's eyes darkened slightly. "Do you want to give her the things I gave you?" "No," she heard the displeasure in his words and said quickly, "If you don't like it, I won't give the scarf to Xiao." But, Xiao lives alone in the hospital, so pitiful. Would she be very happy if she could receive any gifts? Pei Xian's expression softened a little. Looking at the little girl in trouble, he said, "Take that bottle of perfume." Huh. That bottle of perfume is produced by a handicraft workshop in Paris. It is made from pure natural plant extracts and contains no chemical additives. It also has a special smell that girls will like. But, Xiaoling raised her face and asked, "Didn't you say that I am too young to use perfume?" "Xiao is younger than me." Pei Xian said, "She is her, and you are you. What does it matter to him whether others use perfume or not? Only his baby is not good enough. He likes her sweet and natural scent. It is already very good, and he doesn't need any perfume to add to it." Xiaoling was speechless. With her little mind, she couldn't understand Brother Pei's logic. However, since Brother Pei said that Xiao can use it, let's give it to Xiao. As for the perfume he brought back from Paris, Xiao will be very happy. The next day, she happily wore a silk scarf and perfume and went to see Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu's condition has improved somewhat and she is basking in the sun in the garden. She was surrounded by 2 heart disease patients and their parents. When Xiaoling walked over, she heard a parent complimenting Xiaoyu, "Miss Xia is so lucky. She will be able to go abroad for surgery soon. That Director Pei is so kind to you and allows you to receive the best treatment. Alas, it's not like our Xiaohong. He has a miserable life. He has no means of support at home and his illness is dragging on day by day." "Isn't it?" another parent said. "Ms. Xia's nutrition is good, she eats special food, and she has nannies taking care of her in shifts 24 hours a day. It's not like our family, where her father and I usually have to take care of each other. Even if I take turns to take time off to look after my children, I can't even take care of them." Xiaoyu smiled quietly in the midst of admiration and compliments. "Brother Pei was very kind to me. He sent someone to see me a few days ago. Just tell him what I need." There was another round of admiration all around. Xiaoling walked over and greeted her with a smile. "Xiao, I'm here to see you." Behind her was a driver and a bodyguard who helped to get perfume. She looked taller and taller than Pei Zion, who was better suited to take care of her in the hospital. Xiaoyu's nanny looks much more powerful. Xiaoyu's face changed imperceptibly, and she quickly covered it up. She smiled softly and said, "You're here, sister." Her tone was not very warm. Xiaoling has long been accustomed to her way of speaking, so she just thinks she is weak and doesn't take it to heart. He walked up to Xiaoyu, looked at it carefully, and then nodded assuredly, "Well, it looks better. This is Miss Xiaoling, she really cares about her sister," a parent said with a smile. Another parent said, "Isn't it Miss Xiaoling? Miss Xiaoling, do you remember me? The last time you came to see Miss Xiaoyu, we bumped into each other in the corridor. At that time, I asked which family's daughter was like this. You are so beautiful. I didn't expect to see you under the sun today. You are even more beautiful than that day. This is the most beautiful sister I have ever seen," Xiaoyu's patient, a 7 or 8-year-old girl, said. Several other people also nodded. "There is nothing I can do about it. Xiaoling is so beautiful that everyone who sees her is deeply impressed." Xiaoling herself has long been accustomed to such compliments, and she has learned etiquette from teacher Sophia for a long time. At this time, she just smiled politely and looked very elegant. "This is the real eldest lady. She is different from us ordinary people." A parent looked at Xiaoling with envy. She couldn't tell how Xiaoling was different from them, but the natural temperament about her body made her instantly recognizable. "Looks very noble. That is a kind of aristocratic temperament that cannot be seen in Xiaoyu. It's no wonder, after all, Xiaoyu has been sick in the hospital and hasn't taken any etiquette class yet." Amid the praise from everyone, Xiaoling's eyebrows furrowed, and after chatting for a while, she said to Xiaoyu, "Xiaoyu, I'm sorry, I was busy preparing to attend the Midsummer Flower Appreciation Banquet for celebrities, so I couldn't come to see you. Now that the flower viewing party is over, I will come over quickly." Xiaoyu felt very uncomfortable. Originally, she was the center of attention, but why did all the patients and their parents rush around her when Xiaoling came? Hearing them praise Xiaoling for her beauty, Xiaoyu wanted to tear her face apart. What did they mean? I have never praised myself for being beautiful in so many days. Is it because I think I am ugly? Furthermore, she asked about the flower viewing party for ladies in midsummer. She didn't want to hear Xiaoling show off at all. Okay. Over there, Xiaoling has already explained to everyone with a smile, "Actually, it's nothing, it's just a banquet in the upper class. The most popular lady is selected, and she is called the Midsummer Lady. Oh, this year's Midsummer Lady is me. Lucky, really lucky." Her laughter is like silver bells. In Xiaoyu's ears, it was extremely harsh. What, how did this silly and naive sister get so lucky that she was selected as the midsummer celebrity? It's really unreasonable. Xiaoyu frowned, deliberately covered her heart with her hands, and said weakly, sister, push me back to the ward quickly, I feel so uncomfortable." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1032. Chapter 1032. A Gift to Pei Zion. Xiaoling was startled and hurriedly pushed Xiaoyu back to the ward. The ward is spacious and bright. It is an independent VIP on the top floor. Large tracts of sunlight shine on the wooden floor through the floor-to-ceiling glass. There are red roses in the vase in the corner. Xiaoling helped her back to the hospital bed and told the nanny to call a doctor. Xiaoyu took her hand and smiled weakly, "Sister, don't bother me, I'll be fine." Xiaoling said, "You are a patient and you cannot be willful. It is safer to call a doctor to check." Xiaoyu lowered her eyes slightly to hide her resentment. It's always like this, no matter what she does or doesn't do, she must obey her sister's will, as if she is a puppet on strings and cannot violate it at all. She hates this kind of life. It would be great if her sister didn't exist in this world. The petals of red roses are falling from the corner of the wall. Xiaoling waited with her for a while. The doctor came in with a stethoscope and did some simple examinations. He raised his head and said, "Miss Xiaoyu is fine. She is probably tired. Just rest for a while." Xiaoling nodded, thanked the doctor, and sent him out of the ward. She has always been an arrogant girl who doesn't take anyone seriously, but she is very polite to the medical staff who treat Xiaoyu. Every time she comes over, she will bring some small gifts such as fruits and bouquets to greet her when she comes in. I just ask them to give my sister the best care. But in Xiaoyu's eyes, everything was just pretentious. Xiaoyu remembered the day she overheard two nurses talking in the corridor. Did you notice? That little girl named Xiaoling is so kind to her sister. After visiting her, she pestered the doctor to ask about her condition for a long time. She is so sensible. Yes, she is beautiful and has a good personality. Xiaoyu is really lucky to have such a sister. Who says it's not the case? It's a pity that Xiaoyu is too ill and is much uglier than her sister. The two nurses walked away talking and laughing. Leaving Xiaoyu alone, it felt like a boiling flame was surging in her heart. "Xiaoyu, Xiaoyu," suddenly, she heard Xiaoling calling her. She came back to her senses. "What's the matter, sister? Did you hear me?" Xiaoling looked at her worriedly. "Did I disturb you? If you are tired, take a good rest. I will come see you another day and tell you about the ladies in midsummer." Xiaoyu wanted to scream at her to get out. Who wants to listen to a midsummer socialite? She didn't want to see her sister showing off a word, not a word. But she couldn't. She deeply understood why she could live in such a good hospital for treatment today. Even Brother Pei always looked after her sister. If Brother Pei could like her, wouldn't she need to look at her sister's face? Xiaoyu pondered. At this time, Xiaoling said, "By the way, Brother Pei asked me to bring you a gift." She took out a beautiful bottle of perfume from her small bag and said, "It's a handmade product from Paris." "For me?" Xiaoyu's eyes lit up with surprise. "Yes," Xiaoling smiled, "there is only such a small bottle in total, and I didn't even want it." "Xiaoyu, please open it quickly and see what it smells like. It must smell good." Hearing that even Xiaoling was not here, Xiaoyu was very happy and quickly opened the gorgeous packaging of the perfume. The crystal clear glass bottle is exposed, reflecting beautiful light in the sun. The two sisters studied for a long time, and finally figured out how to spray the small bottle cap, and carefully sprayed a little in the air. The perfume is fine and even, spreading like rain and mist. Xiaoling was very happy and stretched out her hand through the small rain of perfume. "It smells really good." Yes, Xiaoyu also stretched out her hand, feeling the slightly moist mist in the air, and her mood became high. This small bottle of perfume is not cheap. I didn't expect Brother Pei to be so kind to her and give her something that even her sister wanted. She couldn't help but feel proud, and glanced at her sister standing aside with some ostentation. "Did Brother Pei really only give me one person? Sister, will you be sad or angry?" No way. Xiaoling didn't notice anything strange about her and was playing with the perfume rain. "Brother Pei gave me a silk scarf, and there was only one. Look." She turned around and gave it to her with a smile. My sister looked at the soft and gorgeous silk scarf on her hair. "Isn't it beautiful? Brother Pei said it matches me very well." Xiaoyu's originally proud mood sank. After a moment of silence, she asked calmly, "Why did Brother Pei give you a silk scarf and perfume to me?" "I don't know either." Speaking of this, Xiaoling felt a little troubled. "Actually, I want both things, but Brother Pei refused to give me perfume and said I was still young." "What are you lying to? Man, you are obviously younger than me, but the scarf is also very beautiful. I like it very much." Xiaoyu's heart sank even more. Although she was weak, she was considerate. She couldn't help asking softly, Did Brother Pei bring these two things from Paris to give us? He refused to give you the perfume. Will he? Isn't it because when I bought it, I planned to give you the scarf and give me the perfume? Xiaoling shrugged. No, it was Chu Chen who went to Paris on a business trip and brought him these two things. He thought it was appropriate to give me a silk scarf, so he gave it to me. Later, I said that I would come to the hospital to see you. Before he could prepare a suitable gift, he asked me to bring him the perfume. She was simple-minded and not as complicated as Xiaoyu thought. She just said what she wanted, but her honest words made Xiaoyu's heart cold. A big chunk. It turns out that the perfume given to her was all a lie. It's obviously just by the way. By the way. At least, my sister's silk scarf was a special gift from Brother Pei after he took a fancy to it, but what about this bottle of perfume? It was obviously just used to top up money when there were no gifts. Xiaoyu felt short of breath, her chest heaved, and she almost cried. Why is God so unfair? No matter what, my sister will get the best, and what is left to her is what no one wants. She is not willing to give in, so unwilling to give in. Xiaoyu, are you really not feeling well? Xiaoling noticed something was wrong with her face and said with concern, lie down quickly and listen to the doctor's instructions and have a good rest. I will come see you next time. At this point, Xiaoyu was not in the mood to deal with her anymore, so he nodded and said goodbye to her. Xiaoling gave her a few more instructions and walked to the door of the ward. Wait, sister. Suddenly, she heard Xiaoyu say. Xiaoling paused in her steps and turned around. What's the matter, Xiaoyu? Can you bring me a gift for Brother Pei? Xiaoyu said softly, he gave me such a good perfume. I am very grateful. I also thought about giving him something to thank him properly. So what? Ying Ying probably just got off the plane at 8 o'clock tonight. This chapter is released on time. There are still 2 chapters left. I don't know if it will be on time. Anyway, there will be 3 updates tonight. It may be on time, or it may be a little later. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1033. Chapter 1033. Do you want to go to the Emperor? Xiaoling was startled. She had never thought of giving a gift to Pei Ziyan, but her sister did. She looked at her sister with admiration. You are still thoughtful, but our food, clothing, housing, and transportation are all provided by Brother Pei. Even if you give him a gift, it will cost him money, which makes me feel embarrassed. What do you want to give him? Xiaoyu smiled. How can you use his money to give gifts? How insincere. Sister, I have been bored in the hospital these days. I learned how to make dried flower bookmarks from the patients. Didn't you say that Brother Pei is often in the study? Is it too late to read the document? Putting the dried flower bookmark in the document will make him feel better. Xiaoling's eyes lit up. What a great idea. Why didn't I think of it? I'll do it with you. Xiaoyu shook her head and declined. Sister, if you want to do it, I will do it with you in the future. This time, let me do it alone and give it to Brother Pei, okay? He spent so much money and manpower to treat me. I should thank him properly. She regretted a little. Why did she just ask Xiaoling to bring a gift to Pei Ziyan? She should have found a time when Xiaoling was not around, secretly prepared the dried flowers and asked the servant to deliver them to Pei Ziyan. This sister, I fight with her about everything. I can't let my sister get ahead of me when it comes to giving gifts this time. She must be the first one to give gifts to Brother Pei. Maybe, through this gift, Brother Pei will feel that she is more considerate and understanding than her sister, and maybe she will slowly favor him in the future. Xiaoyu was thinking in her mind and looked at her sister pleadingly. please. Xiaoling couldn't stand her sister's coquettishness, so she smiled slightly. Okay, then I'll let you send it off alone this time. But don't be too tired, and make sure to rest when making bookmarks. I'll help you in a few days. You give it to him. Xiaoyu thanked her sister softly and watched her leave. A few days later, Xiaoyu made the bookmark and handed it to Xiaoling. That is a very beautiful hosta flower bookmark. The plain white petals are just beginning to bloom, and are lightly dyed with a faint hint of red, adding a bit of mystery and temptation. Xiaoling looked over and over again and couldn't put it down. It's so beautiful. Xiao, you are so awesome. I can't make such a beautiful bookmark. Huh? What's the red on it? I don't remember that the petals of the hosta flower have such a color. Ah. Xiaoyu lowered her head in embarrassment. I am clumsy. I hurt my hand when I was making a bookmark. It bled a little and got on the bookmark. I originally wanted to make a new one, but I couldn't find such a beautiful hosta. It took. She bit her lip gently. How about I look for it again? Xiaoling threw away the bookmark and held her hand distressedly. Why are you so careless? Oh, it's really hurt. Looking at the band-aid wrapped around Xiaoyu's fingers, Xiaoling felt distressed. Don't do it again in the future. I've made a bookmark and give it to Brother Pei. I'll explain it to him and he won't mind. Xiaoyu smiled obediently. My sister still loves me the most. Of course, you are my sister, Xiaoling said. Xiaoyu lowered her head slightly and smiled secretly again. She knew that this idiot sister would stop her from continuing to make bookmarks, and would nervously explain to Pei Zion the blood stains on the bookmarks. In this way, her goal was achieved. The blood stains on the petals were deliberately stained by her own cut fingers, in order to let Pei Zion know how hard she worked to make this dried flower bookmark and how much she admired him. From now on, whenever he sees this bookmark, he will think of her. Over time, and as she continues to work hard to get close to him, one day, her status in his heart will surpass that of her sister. Xiaoyu was dreaming sweetly in her heart, and she did not forget to tell her sister, you must not tell Brother Pei that I was injured. I don't want him to worry. As expected, Xiaoling said, how can that be done? You made a bookmark for him even though you were so ill. You spent so much effort on it. You must let him know. He will definitely be very touched. Sister, Xiaoyu scolded with embarrassment. Okay, Xiaoling said, I understand what to do, so don't worry. Without waiting for Xiaoyu to continue persuading, she waved briskly and left the ward. Xiaoyu looked at her leaving back and snorted slowly. Outside the hospital, the sky was blue and the sun was shining brightly. Xiaoling raised her head and looked at the bright sunshine at noon. Her mood suddenly became good. She carefully protected her sister's bookmarks, hummed happily, got into the Rolls-Royce waiting outside, and said to the driver, go home. The driver started the vehicle and drove to Pei Zion's villa. The scenery on the street was receding, like a dreamy reflection. Xiaoling lay by the car window and watched for a while. She turned her head and asked the driver, tell me, when will Brother Pei go home today? He is very busy every day, and it is often late at night when he comes back. The driver didn't know either. How about I call Mr. S secretary and ask? Xiaoling happily said yes. After thinking about it, she told the driver, don't say that I'm the one looking for him. I want to give him a surprise. The driver responded, called Pei Zion's secretary, and told Xiaoling, sir, you have a cross-border meeting today, which will be held in the Emperor. You will be busy until very late. Secretary Zhou suggests that you go to bed first and don't have to wait for him. Xiaoling was stunned. Didn't I tell you not to say it was me? The driver suppressed a laugh. Secretary Zhou is really capable of being your chief secretary. I can guess it's you right away. Is that so? The little girl sighed melancholy and wrung her fingers. I still want to give him a surprise. How annoying. The driver still suppressed his laughter and said gently, "Don't worry, Miss Secretary Joe has already promised not to tell Mr. about your call. Mr. doesn't know anything yet." The little girl became happy again and thanked the driver. The driver was amused by her and was in a good mood. Since the husband adopted this girl, their work has become a lot more fun. In the past, my husband was always too serious and I didn't dare to show off when driving for him, but now that I have a young lady, it's really nice to be able to relax while working. Xiaoling lay by the car window and looked at the scenery for a while, then suddenly thought, "What do you think, can I give Brother Pei the bookmark and take it to the company?" The driver was startled. "Sir, you are so busy, you won't be angry, right?" "I don't know either." Xiaoling has never done anything like this before, and she is not sure. "How about you call Secretary Joe and ask?" Secretary Joe can't make the final decision on such a big matter, the driver smiled bitterly. "She will definitely ask Sir for instructions, and he will definitely know what you want to do." "It's so troublesome," the little girl sighed sadly again. There is another chapter being written, which will be posted later. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1034. Chapter 1034, Entering the Emperor for the First Time. The frown on her face was really distressing, and the driver couldn't help but said, "How about I give it a try?" Okay, she became happy again, thought about it, and then said, "If it doesn't work, forget it. Anyway, don't let Brother Pei find out that I want to give him a gift." The driver responded with a smile and called Secretary Joe again. When Secretary Joe received the call, he was really embarrassed. There is no precedent. "I'll go ask for instructions." "No," the driver quickly stopped her. "The lady said she didn't want the husband to know, so if it doesn't work, forget it." Secretary Joe rolled his eyes in the empty office. "Let me think of a solution and I'll call you back later." After saying that, he hung up the phone. The reason why she was able to carve her way among the emperor's elites and become the chief secret beside Pei Xian was not through mediocrity and self-preservation. Secretary Joe's principle is to do her best in everything. Take Xiaoling's case for example. She could really listen to the driver's advice and pretend it never happened, but in that case, she and other secretaries who were messing around would be in trouble. What's the difference? It is too inconsistent with her elite status. She walked back and forth in her office area and decisively looked for Chu Chen. "I heard that the little girl named Xiaoling was adopted by Chu Chen when he accompanied his boss to visit the orphanage. She also helped a lot back and forth." With Chu Chen's shrewdness, he must have known whether he could let Xiaoling in. She was lucky, Chu Chen happened to be in the company. Hearing her explanation of her purpose, Chu Chen smiled, "You owe me a big favor this time." Secretary Joe had worked with him for a long time, and he said half-jokingly, "Stop making trouble, Agent Chu. If you can help me make the right decision, I will definitely remember your favor. But don't cheat me, boss, you know your temper. If you do this wrong, you might get me fired." Chu Chen sneered, "Can I let you get fired?" What he said was true. They were both direct descendants of Pei Xian's confidants. They were almost both prosperous and devastated. If something happened to Secretary Joe, a new big secretary would come up. Just getting along takes time. How can their old partners work together so smoothly? Secretary Joe also understood the reason and chuckled, "Okay, stop being so secretive and tell me quickly, do you want to let Miss Xia in?" "Let her go," Chu Chen said decisively, "let her come in and you will get a promotion and a salary increase, believe it or not." "Really that smart?" Secretary Joe was shocked. "You also know that the boss doesn't like to be disturbed, let alone involve personal matters in the work. Have you forgotten how Mr. Liu from the finance department was harassed last year? He was fired. Wasn't it because his wife came to the company to file for divorce?" Chu Chen looked at her. Are you comparing Xiaoling to Lu Wei? Secretary Zhou. The phone rang again. It was Xiaoling, who couldn't wait any longer and asked the driver to call her. Secretary Zhou looked at the calm Chu Chen, then looked at his phone, gritted his teeth, and picked up. Hey, brother Li, I checked the boss's schedule. He will be in the office from 2:30 to 3:15 this afternoon. I have no appointments to deal with some documents during this period. If Miss Xia is coming, it would be more appropriate to choose this time. Can you really come? The driver was doubtful. You won't tell, sir, will you? How is that possible? Secretary Zhou smiled calmly. Can I not strictly abide by Miss Xia's instructions? Please just come. I think the boss is in a good mood today, and everything will be fine. The driver said, then we will come. Come on, Secretary Zhou glanced at Chu Chen, still smiling, but first things first, if the boss is happy to see Miss Xia, don't mention me. Don't let the boss know that it was my idea. The most important thing you need to pay attention to when you are a subordinate is propriety. It is not good to know the boss's thoughts, but it is also taboo to know too much. Secretary Zhou didn't want to give the boss the impression that he had understood his mind. That would be very dangerous. The driver was also experienced in the workplace and understood Secretary Zhou's thoughts very well. He said with a smile, that's natural, but if you blame me, sir, I will definitely recruit you out. You can't do that. Let Mr. Xia think it was Miss Xia who took it upon herself to go to the emperor. Secretary Zhou was very generous. Of course I'll take care of you if something happens. The two parties hung up the phone harmoniously. Chu Chen looked at her with a half smile but not a smile. I've become a spirit this week. The secretary became more and more good at being a person. Secretary Zhou said with a smile, both each other. She was not afraid of what Chu Chen would say in front of her boss. After all, Chu Chen had a share of the credit for coming up with this idea. Chu Chen stood up from his seat and stretched. Don't blame me for not reminding you, that little ancestor is very powerful in combat. He made Pei Jingyu jump with anger some time ago. If you have any familiar friends, please call me. They should be careful in the afternoon. My suggestion is to go around. After saying that, he slowly picked up his briefcase and went out on business. Secretary Zhou was simply touched by this ally. Damn it, I love you so much. No wonder Chu Chen became Pei Xian's right-hand man at such a young age. In addition to being ruthless, this person is also quite as warm as a spring breeze when he should be. This simple and clever word may have saved many people from serious disasters. Secretary Zhou thought for a while and grabbed the microphone. She didn't intend to spread the news of Xiaoling's arrival, but that didn't stop her from calling the entire secretarial department for a meeting. Just avoid the time when the little ancestor comes to the company, so as not to get into trouble. After the meeting notice was sent out, she stood there and thought for a moment. Since this move can protect her own people, it can also kill the enemy in turn. Oh, Li Binjiao, aren't you arrogant? Let me see if it's you, the popular superstar, who is so stubborn, or the boss's newly adopted little girl who is favored. She said to herself maliciously. In the Rolls-Royce, Xiaoling received the reply that you can go to the emperor. She was so happy that she went home and changed into beautiful clothes. She took the bookmark made by Xia Yu and went to the emperor on time. The driver parked the car in the garage underground of the main building, and took Xiaoling to take the elevator upstairs. I pressed it several times, but the elevator didn't respond. Master Li, are you going to see the chairman? The security guard in the garage recognized Pei Xian's driver and smiled enthusiastically. I'm sorry, the people in the secretarial department just said that there is a strange smell in the elevator, and they are afraid of affecting the chairman. When traveling, I asked the administration department to block the elevator for sanitation. What a coincidence, the driver glanced at Xiaoling. We have to take a detour. Xiaoling didn't care. Instead, She was very excited. It's just a good time to visit the Emperor. I've never seen such a big company before. It's so majestic. The driver laughed and said, "Sir, you would be very happy if you said that." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1035. Chapter 1035 Elevator Troubles. He took her up the side staircase next to the garage, across the hall on the first floor, and to the elevator on the other side. The other side is very close to the agency center and performing arts center, with many stars and agents coming and going. It was the first time for Xiaoling to see a living big star. She was extremely curious. She pulled the driver's clothes and said, Uncle Li, look, that's Long Day Pen over there. I used to be in the orphanage. Many children like to watch his movies. And that one. I like to listen to her singing the most. As she spoke, she ran towards a female star in front of her and raised her little flower-like face. Sister Jasmine, Sister Jasmine. Can you sign your name for me? Whose child is this? When someone suddenly asked for an autograph in her company, the female star named Jasmine was unprepared for a moment and was a little surprised. Little sister, why did you come here? Where are your adults? I'm here to find someone. Xiaoling smiled sweetly, thinking about giving Brother Pei a surprise, without saying who she was here for. Sister Jasmine, I really like listening to your songs. Your song Secret Diary of a Sunflower is so beautiful, especially the line "Do you still remember the promise blooming in the golden memory" is so beautiful. I can sing it too, she said, humming at the same time. Sung 2 lines. Hey, little sister can sing really well. Jasmine was surprised and laughed. With this level, it's no problem to be a singer in the future. How about it? Are you interested in joining the Emperor's training camp? What is the training camp? Xiaoling blinked. You don't even know about the training camp. Jasmine smiled again and looked at the agent next to her. Whose child is this? Being able to break through the Emperor's strict guard and penetrate deep into the main building must have some special status. However, why don't you even know what the training camp is? It's incredible. The manager had already found a pen and paper, and smiled calmly. Molly, please sign your little fan's name quickly. We will have something to do later, so don't keep reporter Lee from Star Entertainment Weekly waiting. Jasmine took the pen and paper, signed Xiaoling's name, smiled and waved to her. Goodbye, little girl. She turned around and left with her agent in a dignified manner. Sister Jasmine is so kind. Xiaoling hugged the signature dearly and smiled happily. At this moment, the driver caught up with her out of breath. Miss, please don't run around. The Emperor is so big. What should I do if he falls and gets lost? If she made a mistake, his job would probably be lost. Xiaoling didn't care, and raised the signature on her hand to show the driver. Uncle Li, look, Sister Jasmine signed an autograph for me. It turns out that she is an artist from Brother Pei's company. Can I visit her often in the future? The driver smiled bitterly. You should ask Sir about this. Yeah, Xiaoling nodded. Let's go find Brother Pei quickly. By the way. She folded Jasmine's signature carefully and handed it to the driver. Put it away for me and give it to me when you get home in the evening. She was still holding the bookmark she wanted to give to Brother Pei, and it was very inconvenient to get the signature. The driver kept it for her as instructed. She was in a good mood and skipped forward. When she got to the elevator, she turned around and asked the driver, Uncle Li, which floor is Brother Pei on? The driver's arms and legs were old and he couldn't outrun her. He gasped and said, let's go to the 26th floor first. Pei Xian's office is on the top floor of the main building, on the 28th floor, but the direct elevator to the garage is under maintenance, and the brokerage center is the elevator cannot directly lead to Pei Xian's floor. They must go to the 26th floor first and then take the stairs. Xiaoling found 26 among a bunch of buttons and pressed it briskly. One after another, several Emperor employees gathered and waited for the elevator with her. The little girl was so beautiful, dressed like a little princess, that every employee couldn't help but look at her more. Who is this? Someone couldn't help but ask his colleagues around him. It's so beautiful. Is this a new child star? I don't know, the colleague shook his head. She's really beautiful. Xiaoling had good ears and heard them talking about her, so she raised her head and smiled brightly at them. Wow, look, she is smiling at us. So cute. The employees were in commotion again. Xiaoling was in a great mood. She began to love the emperor. Her uncles, aunts, brothers, and sisters were all doing well. With a ding, the elevator arrived. Xiaoling carefully protected the dried flower bookmark in her hand and got on the elevator. Several other employees also got on the elevator. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the elevator. Wait. Following the voice, a hand stretched out to hold the elevator door. You guys, come down, come down. Miss Li Binjiao is here. What? She's here. Miss Li Binjiao. Everyone's voice sounded a bit unwilling, but they still got off the elevator and made way for them. Xiaoling stood still and looked out curiously. She saw a very noble and elegant woman walking in the corridor not far away, with many staff surrounding her. The woman wore exquisite makeup and looked spotless, and her high heels made an unheard sound on the ground. Xiaoling saw her on TV. It's really Li Binjiao. She's even more beautiful in person than on TV. The little girl said in surprise and admiration. Outside the elevator, the employees who had just got off couldn't help but remind her, little girl, come down quickly. Miss Li Binjiao doesn't like taking the elevator with others. Xiaoling was surprised again and opened her eyes wide. Is that so? Then she can sit down. The little girl's voice, as clear as a silver bell, spread far away. Li Binjiao over there also heard it, frowned, and walked quickly to the elevator. Everyone was sweating coldly. Little ancestor, who do you think Miss Li Binjiao is? She is the emperor's most popular actress, a queen-level figure. Only others have always made way for her, so how could she make way for others? Little girl, come down quickly. The employees were very fond of this beautiful and lively girl and couldn't bear to see her offend Li Binjiao, so they hurriedly tried to persuade her. When the man who had just stopped the elevator saw this, he couldn't help but glare at Xiaoling. Who are you? Come down, hurry up. Can you take responsibility for delaying Miss Li Binjiao's affairs? He is an assistant of Li Binjiao. I am used to being arrogant, and I don't take a little girl seriously. Xiaoling was unhappy and said stubbornly, I won't. She had always had this kind of temper, refusing to take soft and hard advice. When someone bullied her, she would not swallow her anger. The assistant was not happy either, and glared at the driver beside her. Who are you? This is your child? Take it away quickly, don't get in the way, really. He regarded the driver as an ordinary employee of the emperor. Well, Ying went to Hemu from Kaunas airport today. Those who have been there know how hard it is. Then we arrived at the inn and connected to the internet for a long time. I will update 2 times tonight. The second update is still being written. It will be later. Hair. I'm really sorry for the instability in tourist areas recently. Please work with me to overcome it. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1036. Chapter 1036. Bookmark died in battle. The driver's face darkened. This is Xia. Uncle Li. Xiaoling tugged at the corner of his clothes. She didn't want others to discover her identity. If Brother Pei knew she was coming, how could she surprise him? The driver endured it and stopped talking. He is not worried about what Li Binjiu and his party will do to Xiaoling. They can't beat her out, right? With Xiaoling's identity, why should she be afraid of other threats and inducements? What's more, with him standing by, if something dangerous really happened, he would be able to stop it in time. The assistant saw that he was silent and thought he was scared. He waved his hand impatiently, "Go away, go away." The driver stood beside Xiaoling and did not move. Not to mention that he had to guard Xiaoling, even if he was alone, he couldn't just get out of the elevator in dejection by a casual shout from an assistant. Who is he? He is Pei Xian's official driver. It doesn't matter if he embarrasses others, but he must not embarrass Pei Xian. Seeing that he didn't move, Xiaoling became more confident and looked at the assistant provocatively, "Get out." "We can't." "Why don't you get out first and show us?" "You," the assistant was furious. "Whose child is this?" Within a few words, Li Binjiu had already walked to the elevator. She looked down at Xiaoling in the elevator and spoke arrogantly, "What qualifications do you have to grab the elevator in front of me?" Xiaoling suddenly felt that the sister Li Binjiu was not as beautiful and elegant as she appeared on TV. She raised her head high and glared at Li Binjiu unhappily, "Didn't your previous teacher teach you the principle of first come, first served?" In the crowd of onlookers, some people could not help but laugh. Li Binjiu has been arrogant in the emperor for a long time. Many people have long disliked her and dared to be angry but dare not speak out. Xiaoling's words now made so many people angry, and roundly accused Li Binjiu of being uneducated. Li Binjiu has never been publicly humiliated like this since she became famous. At this moment, her face was as cold as ice and she gave the managers and assistants around her a cold look. The two of them understood and pushed the driver away to pull Xiaoling away. Xiaoling was young and quick to see opportunities. Coupled with the driver's deliberate protection, she easily avoided the two adults and hid behind the driver. Just as he was dodging, the dried flower bookmark he had been holding in his hand accidentally fell down and fell outside the elevator door. "Ah! My bookmark," Xiaoling was anxious and ran out of the elevator to pick it up. Li Binjiu snorted when she saw her going out, and stepped on the bookmark with her high heels without hesitation. Under the crushing force of her thin high heels, the dried flower bookmark immediately fell into pieces. She stepped on the broken pieces of dried flowers and entered the elevator. "You've gone too far," Xiaoling knelt down in distress and picked up the pieces of dried flowers. Unfortunately, she couldn't put them back together no matter how hard she tried. She glared at Li Binjiu in the elevator angrily, "You did it on purpose." Yes, Li Binjiu did it on purpose. He had already disliked the little girl in front of him, so he stepped on and crushed the dried flower bookmark when he could clearly step over it. A condescending smile appeared on her delicately made-up face, "Wouldn't everything be fine if we let the elevator out earlier?" Beside her, the assistant held the elevator door and allowed other staff serving Li Binjiu to file in. And what about driver Li? As early as when he saw Xiaoling running out of the elevator, he also ran out. He didn't care whether the elevator would be snatched by Li Binjiu and the others. The only thing he cared about was that nothing happened to Xiaoling. "Miss, are you okay?" the driver asked nervously. Xiaoling ignored him and rushed towards the elevator, "You pay for me." However, Li Binjiu's assistant pushed her out and scolded her, "You uneducated wild girl, go back to where you came from. You are just a flower, go back to your mother." Xiaoling was too young and had not yet grown up. She was pushed by him and staggered back several steps. If the driver had not been quick to catch her with quick hands, she would have fallen to the ground. Li Binjiu glanced at her casually and told her assistant, "Close the door." The assistant pressed the door closing button, but driver Li stepped forward and blocked the door. "You can't leave," his voice was heavy and his expression was solemn. It would have been fine if they hadn't pushed Xiaoling, but now that they had, things couldn't be better. Who dares to bully the girl Pei Zion adopted? Driver Li looked at the people waiting in the elevator. Do you know who this girl is? Who do I care who she is she a queen? Ha ha ha. Li Benjiao's assistant laughed at them loudly, as if she had heard something funny. Several other staff members in the elevator also laughed. Li Benjiao frowned slightly, feeling that something was wrong. She is the Queen of Heaven, and her face is so recognizable. Since the man in front of her can appear in the main building of the Emperor, it is impossible not to recognize her face. Under such circumstances, how dare he stop her to challenge her? Either he is crazy, or he has something to rely on. She didn't want to get into trouble, so she pretended to be arrogant and said, "She's just a confused little girl. Now that she's off the elevator, I don't care. Cheng, close the elevator door. I'm in a hurry." She didn't want to hear the little girl's identity. If she really had a good background, she might not be able to escape. Xiaoling, however, refused to give up and shouted, "You pay for my bookmark." I followed the driver's example and used my hands to block the elevator door. I was pinched, and it was so painful that I shed tears. "Miss," the driver exclaimed and quickly took her away. "Look at your hand, is it hurt?" Outside the elevator, other onlookers were also worried. It wouldn't be worth it for such a beautiful little girl to hurt her hand over something like this. Over there, the elevator door was blocked by Xiaoling and opened automatically again. Li Benjiao was so angry that her face changed. "Why is this little girl so troublesome? Go," she scolded her assistant. "You pay for my bookmark," Xiaoling cried out. She didn't know whether it was because of the pain or the fact that the bookmark was damaged. Li Benjiao and her group ignored her and pressed the elevator button on their own, but this time, the elevator didn't respond no matter how hard they pressed it. "It's broken," the assistant pressed it a few more times and became irritable. "Bah, what a bad luck. The little girl must have broken it just now," an accompanying staff member said. "What a broomstick," the assistant pointed at her nose and scolded her. "How much is your bookmark worth? If you break the elevator, you can't even afford to lose your fortune." Xiaoling was still crying, holding a torn bookmark in her hand, looking very pitiful. "That bookmark, how much hard work my sister put into it, must be very painful for her to be trampled to pieces like this, right?" When she thought of this, Xiaoling cried uncontrollably and squatted on the ground with tears streaming down her face. Li Benjiao saw that the elevator was not working, so she didn't bother to pay attention to the little girl. She walked past her with someone and headed towards another elevator not far away. Suddenly, she stopped. "Hello, Chairman," she said in a surprised and flattering voice. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1037. Chapter 1037, Doting on Children. Xiaoling also raised her head, tears still hanging on her pretty face. She saw Pei Zion, wearing a finely crafted suit, walking hurriedly towards the side with a secretary-looking man. His expression was so cold and scary. But as if she were meeting a relative, she shouted, "Brother Pei." Many people looked at her in horror. What did this little girl who was crying like a child call Pei Zion? What was even more shocking was yet to come. Pei Zion strode forward, knelt down directly in front of the little girl, looked at her carefully, and asked in a gentle voice he had never heard before, "Are you injured?" She cried and stretched out her hand to him, and complained out of breath, that Sister Li broke the dried flower bookmark I brought. I asked her to compensate, but she pinched my hand. Woo. Li Benjiao's expression also changed. Although she guessed that this little girl had some background, she didn't expect that her background was Pei Zion. How many people in the world can act coquettishly and complain in front of Pei Zion? I'm afraid she is the only one. Looking at Pei Xian's gentle and patient expression when facing the little girl, Li Binjia felt that this time the matter was serious. The other onlookers were also not feeling well. On the one hand, they were shocked by the familiar relationship between Xiaoling and Pei Xian. On the other hand, they couldn't help but shed a cold sweat. This little girl complained so smoothly. Fortunately, she was not offended. The onlookers secretly rejoiced and looked at Li Binjia with a little more sympathy. Pei Xian carefully held Xiaoling's hand and frowned when he saw that her originally fair and delicate little hand was red and swollen from being pinched. "Let Secretary Zhou apply some medicine on you later," he said. "Why did you come here? You didn't say hello before you came, so I could send someone to pick you up." Xiaoling was sobbing and still crying. Xiao worked so hard to make it for you, and specifically asked me to bring it to you, but, Sister Li deliberately stepped on it. Wow. She cried sadly again, and this time she threw herself into Pei Xian's arms and howled loudly. Pei Xian hugged her, patted her thin back with his palms, and comforted her gently. "Okay, it's okay. Brother Pei will help you vent your anger." This time, even Secretary Zhou who came with him was sweating coldly. No wonder Chu Chen said that this little girl had strong fighting ability. When he complained, he said that Li Binjia crushed the bookmark after trampling on it, but he also added intentionally there was no trace between the two words, and the most important thing was that in just a few words, Pei Xian said that he wanted to vent her anger. Secretary Zhou has been in the job for so many years, how has Pei Xian ever vented his anger on anyone? The emperor and even the entire Pei family believed in the law of the jungle. Not to mention ordinary employees, even senior executives like Chu Chen or noble cousins like Pei Jingyu would never take it out on Pei Xian when anything happened. Pass. This little girl, how can she be so virtuous? The way Secretary Zhou looked at Xiaoling changed a little. She calmly took a few steps back, took out her mobile phone and called a subordinate in the secretarial department. "Hurry up and find a doctor. Get the best one. There is a little girl here whose hand was caught by the elevator door. Prepare some disinfectant red potions, snacks, candies, I don't know what she likes to eat, so buy some of everything, hurry up." Those who can achieve this position are naturally talented people. Judging from Pei Xian's attitude towards Xiaoling, Secretary Zhou has already handled the follow-up work properly. "Over there," Xiaoling cried and said to Pei Xian, "Tell her to pay for my bookmark." "Good." Pei Xian responded simply, touched her soft hair, stood up and looked at Li Binjia. Li Binjia was horrified by his eyes, and she shouted, "Chairman!" She regretted it so much now. If she had known earlier, why would she want to provoke this little girl? If someone wants to use the elevator first, then let them use it. Even if she is a superstar, can she compete with Pei Xian's darling? However, this little girl is really hateful. Li Binjia was angry in her heart. She had such a big background and refused to tell her. Wasn't she intentionally harming others? She really wanted to cut Xiaoling into pieces. Fortunately, her years of hard work in the entertainment industry were not in vain. She suppressed the grievance and anger in her heart and said to Pei Xian with a low eyebrow, "Chairman, I was wrong this time. I accidentally trampled on this lady's bookmark. I'm really sorry and I will make it right." She specially emphasized the word accidentally. That bad girl, what did she do on purpose? She really wanted to tear that mouth apart. So what if she did it on purpose? At times like this, she had to be careless. She didn't want her hard-working acting career to be ruined just because of this. Who knows? The sobbing little girl wiped her tears and interrupted, "You did it on purpose. You did it?" Li Binjia's face darkened. How could this stinky girl talk? On the surface, I had to say to her with a smile on my face, "I'm really sorry, miss, it's all a misunderstanding. How could I deliberately trample on your bookmark?" I was in a hurry and didn't pay attention to my steps. I apologize to you. Lots and lots of beautiful bookmarks, okay? No, Xiaoling started crying again. You did it on purpose. You did it? Woo-hoo-hoo, that bookmark was made by Xiao Yu herself. What's the point of even if you pay 100 or 10,000? You can't afford to pay. Woo. She cried heartbrokenly, and Pei Ziyan felt a wave of heartache, and said softly, okay, Brother Pei knows that she did it on purpose, and Brother Pei will seek justice for you. Stop crying, you are all a little cat. He asked someone to bring a tissue and bent down to wipe the tears from her face. The onlookers, who had never seen Pei Ziyan coaxing a child, were collectively shocked again. I'm not hallucinating, am I? A certain onlooker whispered to a colleague around him, pinch me quickly, how can the chairman be so gentle? He can even coax a child. The colleagues around him also said in a sleepwalking tone, I still want you to pinch me. The crowd was fascinated by the opera, but Li Binjia was in agony, as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. At this point, she had to save herself, Chairman, I really didn't mean it. This lady really misunderstood me. So many people present witnessed what happened. Where is the evidence that I did it on purpose? Pei Ziyan said solemnly, Xiao Ling's words are evidence. Li Binjia. Secretary Zhou. The crowd of onlookers. Is this still unreasonable? They finally saw how much their chairman dotes on his children. This chapter is published on a scheduled basis. I don't know if I was hiking outdoors or had already returned to the hotel when it was published. Therefore, there are 2 more updates tonight. I don't know the update time. It may be on time or delayed. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1038. Chapter 1038. What a shame. Secretary Zhou, Pei Ziyan told his secretary, let Yunyan go to this city-themed business performance. Chairman, Li Binjia's face changed with anxiety, I really know I was wrong. I have been preparing for this themed business performance for a long time, just let me go, this is S-City's attempt to gain international recognition. A large-scale commercial performance held to promote one's own image attracts a lot of public attention. Being able to participate in this show is not only a matter of money, but more importantly, it is an affirmation of one's own quality. Those on the same stage are either kings and queens or cultural celebrities. The people around were silent. They all knew the importance of this business performance. As a result, the owner changed hands so easily. Yunyan and Li Binjia have always been in a competitive relationship, vying for the title of the emperor's first sister overtly and covertly. Originally, Yunyan had already regretted losing the city commercial performance. Who knew that in a sudden turn of events, Pei Ziyan would give her the opportunity casually. Some people who are not too concerned about the excitement have already sent WeChat messages to congratulate Yunyan. Li Binjia looked at Pei Ziyan pleadingly, hoping that he could take back his life. Since her debut, she has always presented herself as a high-ranking iceberg beauty, but now she has to be humble in order to get a spot in the commercial performance. Chairman, it's not long before the commercial performance. Yunyan is not fully prepared. Don't hit the emperor when the time comes. The sign. Just let me go. Pei Ziyan glanced at her. He has always kept his emotions secretive, but big stars who have worked hard in the entertainment industry have long been accustomed to guessing his boss's thoughts from the subtle expressions of his boss. At this time, with one look, Li Binjia's heart was aroused. It was found that Pei Ziyan was extremely impatient. It's over. Li Binjia looked dejected, knowing that there was no room for recovery. Many people around him looked gloating, because Li Binjia usually relied on his big name to bully others. At this moment, these people felt proud and proud. Haha, Li Binjia, do you have this day too? Some of them couldn't bear it anymore and started laughing. Li Binjia caught a glimpse of the crowd's reaction out of the corner of her eye, and felt her face burning. She wanted to find a crack in the ground and burrow down. How long has it been since she was so embarrassed? Her body trembled slightly, and she told herself to endure it. Over there, Pei Ziyan looked down at Xiaoling and said in a very gentle voice, "Let's go, Brother Pei will take you to treat your injury." The girl looked at him in confusion, about to cry again, "Aren't you going to punish that Sister Li?" The crowd of onlookers said. "Little ancestor, didn't you see such a big punishment just now?" Pei Ziyan had a good temper and stroked her limp hair, "I've already punished her. I removed her from one of her programs. She will be distressed for a long time." The little girl blinked in confusion. She didn't understand what a program meant. She looked at Li Binjia suspiciously. Although the proud queen was frustrated and angry, she still maintained her best appearance in front of Pei Ziyan, looking elegant and moving. Xiaoling said, "I don't think she is heartbroken." Haha, an employee next to him couldn't help laughing, feeling sorry for Li Binjia. Pei Ziyan couldn't help but smile. Then what does it mean to be heartbroken? The little girl tilted her head, "At least be like me, so sad that you cry." In her opinion, how can it be considered heartache if you don't cry? Li Binjia's whole body is not well. She is clearly in grief now, but this little still won't let her go. "Miss, I'm really heartbroken and feel very sorry for you," she tried to reason with Xiaoling. "I'm so sad that I can't even cry." "You don't have to cry when you're heartbroken." Xiaoling didn't believe her. "I don't care. If you don't cry, you won't feel uncomfortable." "Then you cry," Pei Ziyan said, looking at Li Binjia coldly, "cry until Xiaoling is satisfied." "Me?" Li Binjia looked at his boss in disbelief. There must be a limit to partiality. Call her a diva and cry in public in the company? It's better to just kill her. I can't cry," she said stiffly. "You're obviously not sad." She stopped crying, but Xiaoling was about to cry again. She flattened her mouth and looked at Pei Ziyan. "Brother Pei, you're going to make her cry if you give her another punishment." "I cry? I cry?" Li Binjia was so frightened that her face turned pale. This little girl must have been sent by God to go against her. Pei Ziyan's casual words just now caused her to lose a project. If there is another punishment, God knows how heavy the loss will be. She didn't care much anymore and kept saying, "I'll cry for you." Xiaoling slowly calmed down her emotions and whispered, "You could have just cried earlier. This little girl is really taking advantage of her and still behaves well." The onlookers were dumbfounded. Really, this time Li Binjia was kicked onto the iron plate. Secretary Zhou was frightened for a while. Oh my God, it turned out that Chu Chen was right when he said she was a little ancestor. The method of tormenting people was really unbelievable. Anyone who offended her would be tortured. Fortunately, she was warned by Chu Chen in advance and did not do anything to Xiaoling. Fortunately. Secretary Zhou glanced at the embarrassed Li Binjia, with an imperceptible smile on his lips. Knowing in advance that Xiaoling was coming, she specifically ordered someone to clean the elevator leading directly to the chairman's office during that time, so Xiaoling had to take a detour. However, even if they take a detour, they may not necessarily bump into Li Binjia. Even if they bump into Li Binjia, the two may just pass each other and there may not be a conflict. It was also Li Binjia's bad luck. Such a coincidence happened to her, and she had a big conflict with Xiaoling. Secretary Zhou was secretly happy. Haha, this is what will happen if Li Binjia usually relies on his big name and doesn't take her, the chief secretary of the chairman, seriously. By the elevator, Xiaoling urged Li Binjia, "Hurry up and cry." How could Li Binjia cry? Adults are not like children, who can let go of tears at will. Adults have long learned to restrain their emotions. It is too difficult for Li Binjia to cry in front of so many people. Fortunately, she was an artist, so she managed to shed some tears. She suppressed her shame in front of everyone and sobbed softly, "Miss, I'm sorry, I can't see Taishan. I shouldn't have broken your bookmark." Xiaoling saw her crying for a long time, frowning and feeling very unhappy. "Why are you crying so quietly? I told you that you are not sad," but Brother Pei still doesn't believe it. "Oh, Brother Pei." She turned to look for Pei Ziyan with a cry again. Li Binjia was so frightened that she almost cried. She quickly cried louder, "Oh, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry." She covered her face and cried. Xiaoling was not satisfied yet. "You have to cry louder than me. It's obvious that you broke my bookmark, how can you not be as sad as me?" Li Binjia gritted her teeth with hatred in her heart, but she did not dare to disobey and cried even harder. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1039. Chapter 1039 Iris Bookmark. Xiaoling watched her cry without blinking. The onlookers looked at the two of them without blinking. "Oh, and Pei Ziyan. It's really strange today." Li Binjia, who has always been arrogant, was actually forced to this point. Emperor's corporate culture has always been one of the weak and the strong. For someone like Li Binjia, who is at the top of the female celebrity food chain, bullying others is common. Being bullied by others. Originally, everyone thought they would have to wait until the day she stopped becoming popular. Li Binjia cried louder and louder, and was out of breath. At this time, she no longer cared about being embarrassed or not. She only knew that if she didn't satisfy her little ancestor by crying, I'm afraid Pei Ziyan would have to punish her. The punishment she just received was so painful that she wanted to die. If Pei Ziyan used her resources to give to Yunyan again, then she wouldn't have to fight for the title of the emperor's first sister, and would just give up the title to Yunyan. As Li Binjia thought about it, she became really sad and cried so hard that her heart broke. Pei Ziyan looked down at Xiaoling. "Let's go, I'll take you to treat your hand." Xiaoling blinked, she hasn't finished crying yet. Pei Ziyan looked at her fondly. This little girl is so stupid. What's the point of crying? Let her continue to cry here until the night, and she will definitely cry more miserably than you, he said to the child in a gentle voice. What if your hand is not treated immediately, and what sequelae will it leave? Oh. Xiaoling followed Pei Ziyan slowly. Secretary Zhou and the driver also hurriedly followed. The onlookers watched them leave, and then they let out a sigh of relief. Oh my God, it's so scary. You must remember this in the future. No one can mess with this little ancestor. Even actresses of Li Binjia's level were severely punished for stepping on a worthless bookmark. They don't think they are tougher than Li Binjia. Li Binjia was still standing in the corridor, crying loudly. She also heard what Pei Ziyan said when he left just now. Since she was asked to cry until night, she must cry until night. Unless she doesn't want to hang out with the emperor anymore. Fortunately, her manager and assistant knew each other well. As soon as Pei Ziyan left, he started to drive away people nearby. What are you looking at? Go and do what you have to do. The crowd of onlookers dispersed reluctantly. Even though Li Binjia was mistreated by that little girl, she was still the emperor's most popular actress, and it was easy to take her anger out on others. No one wants to get into trouble with this. They walked to the other elevator in twos and threes, talking as they walked. Who is that little girl? I have never heard of any girl who can be so pampered by the chairman. TCH, how much do you know about the chairman's private life? Maybe he is a low ICN. TCH, you know again? There are thousands of in this world, and there are quite a few of them in our training camp alone. When did you see the chairman pretending to someone? I think this little girl's background is not simple. You are all so ill-informed, someone said triumphantly. I have just made urgent inquiries. The little girl was recently adopted by the chairman. She is so pampered. I will give you whatever you want. No way. What? How do you like the chairman, adopt such a young girl? Hey, please be careful and don't think blindly. I heard from people in the agency center that their boss Chu accompanied the chairman to the orphanage to do charity a few days ago, and he adopted this little girl because he saw how pitiful he was. And it is said that she sings very well, and the chairman intends to cultivate her well. Oh, cultivation, someone said in a long tone. What can't be cultivated? If you have the ability, say it in front of the chairman. No, it's okay if I'm wrong. Having said that, this little girl is really arrogant. Didn't Lee Binjio just trample on one of her bookmarks? It's too much to be stubborn. Lee Binjio is not a good person either. Thing. Lee Binjio is powerful, the winner takes all. You know, what does that little girl have? She behaves recklessly just because of the favor of the chairman. She is so beautiful and has such a bad character. That's right. A group of people walked away while discussing. In just one afternoon, the news that the chairman adopted a little girl with a particularly bad personality spread throughout the emperor. Xiaoling, however, knew nothing about this. She was brought to her office by Pei Ziyan, and she obediently stretched out her little paws to let the doctor treat the wound. The doctor cleaned her up, applied medicine, and said with a smile, no muscles or bones were injured, just a little swollen. She just needs to rest for a few days. Be careful next time and don't stop the elevator with your hands. Pei Ziyan thanked the doctor and asked Secretary Zhou to send him away. He looked at Xiaoling himself and lectured with a straight face, did you hear that? You are not allowed to stop the elevator with your hands. Xiaoling felt aggrieved and was about to cry again. I was just anxious. She broke Xiao Yu's bookmark. Pei Ziyan looked at her on the verge of tears and had a headache. Tell me, why did you suddenly come to the company? What's with that bookmark? So, Xiaoling told Xiao Yu about the bookmarks she had made by herself and entrusted her to bring them, omitting the contact with Secretary Zhou. Pei Ziyan couldn't laugh or cry after hearing this. Isn't it just a bookmark? She didn't do it with her own hands, so why did she cry like this? It's okay, he comforted her gently, I have received Xiao Yu's heartfelt message. It doesn't matter if you have a bookmark or not. If you really feel sorry for it, just make one and give it to me. Why did I do it? She asked, blinking. Didn't you say that Xiao Yu is not in good health and can't stand being tired? Pei Ziyan said matter-of-factly, since the bookmark was broken on your hand, of course you should make one for me. In fact, he didn't care about Xiao Yu, but suddenly I really want a bookmark made by Xiaoling herself. I like iris flowers. She was slightly startled. Brother Pei also likes iris flowers. He touched her head gently. On weekdays, he has so many things to do, how can he have time to find out what flowers he likes? At first he couldn't even tell what an iris was, but when he went to the orphanage and saw her standing under the flowers, he suddenly felt that they were the most beautiful flowers in the world. Xiaoling said, then I will make you an iris bookmark. Pei Ziyan said yes in a warm voice. But Xiaoling was still not happy, and said dully, it's all my fault that sister Li Binjio, she stepped on that bookmark and broke it. She just thought I was young and bullied me. One day, I want to become more powerful than her. Pei Ziyan asked, do you want to become more powerful than her? Yes, this way she won't be able to bully me. Xiaoling raised her head with bright eyes. Brother Pei, tell me, how can I become powerful? Everyone has been waiting for a long time. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1040. Chapter 1040 Beautiful and Alluring City. Pei Zion did not speak. The girl in front of me is so beautiful, and her singing voice is as sweet as the sound of nature. It is easy to become more powerful than Li Binjai. But that also means. Brother Pei, why don't you speak? Xiaoling looked at him carefully. Am I too stupid to become more powerful than Sister Li Binjai? No, Pei Zion came back to his senses and reassured her, Brother Pei will make you very, very powerful. You don't have to think wildly, just obey my arrangements. Yeah, the little girl felt relieved and nodded heavily. Pei Zion fell into deep thought. For several days, he was restless and made constant mistakes when conveying instructions to the company. This has never happened before. Chu Chen, his close subordinate, looked at him cautiously. Boss, are you worried about something recently? Pei Zion rubbed his eyebrows and was silent for a while before saying, Xiaoling wants to become stronger. Is that a good thing? Chu Chen was puzzled. When you brought her back, didn't you just want to make her the next leading lady? Now she is self-motivated and gets twice the result with half the effort. Pei Zion felt irritable in his heart. He didn't know where this irritability came from. He used his long-standing self-control to calm down and then said, if you want to become stronger, you have to enter the training camp. The training camp is a boarding system. Chu Chen finally knew what the crux of the matter was. I wonder if Pei Zion didn't want Xiaoling to leave his side? He couldn't help but laugh. Why are you laughing? Pei Zion was displeased. Chu Chen suppressed a smile. Haha, boss, you are really. He thought about the words, this is probably the mood of parents worried about their children, right? I heard from my mother that when she sent me to boarding kindergarten, she secretly I cried several times. Pei Zion paused while rubbing his eyebrows. Could it be that he had become a mother-in-law woman like Chu Chen's mother? How many days has it been since Xiaoling was picked up from the orphanage? However, when he thought of her leaving his side, even if she was just living on campus, the reluctance in his heart was too strong to let go. You are the chairman, you have the final say. Chu Chen stopped laughing at him and gave him serious advice, you can let Miss Xia go to school. The training camp will not object. Isn't it just using your privilege? What a big deal. Pei Zion was also confused when it came to his own affairs. When Chu Chen revealed it, he suddenly understood, yes, we can let Xiaoling go to school. The gloom in his expression disappeared, he stood up and walked out with a quick stride. When she got home, Xiaoling came out wearing a pure cotton bear pajamas. Brother Pei. Brother Pei. You are back. Pei Zion looked at her with a gentle expression. What are you doing? I learned etiquette from Ms. Sophia in the morning. She praised me for doing well. As a reward for resting in the afternoon, I went outside to pick a lot of wildflowers, then took a bath and took a nap. Before I fell asleep, I heard Mother Joe open the door for you and I will come down. Not good. He casually touched her soft long hair, his tone full of endearment. Let's go, Brother Pei will take a nap with you. Okay, okay, the little girl said happily, pulling his sleeve and walking upstairs. He said he was taking a nap with her, but in fact, he was taking a nap with her. Xiaoling climbed into bed obediently and covered herself with a quilt. Pei Zion set up a simple desk beside her bed to handle official duties. Xiaoling blinked at him and called softly, Brother Pei. What? He looked away from the official document and asked. What I told you last time. She was a little cautious. What method are you going to use to make me stronger? Pei Zion came back early today because he had made a decision on this matter. At this time, his eyes there was a hint of smile deep down, just to tease her. Guess what? I can't guess. The little girl simply stopped sleeping and got up from the bed. Anyway, I want to become very, very good. I want to sing well and dance well. I want to have many, many fans. I want to be better than anything else. Hello, Sister Li Binjai. Yes, I want to be a big star. The little girl finally understood her wishes. Okay, then become a big star, Pei Ziyan said warmly. He told Xiaoling that the emperor had a place called a training camp, which was specially designed to train future big stars. She could go there to learn how to be a big star. Xiaoling cheered. I knew Brother Pei had the best solution. Then she asked, then how can I enter the emperor's training camp? Pei Ziyan said, let me say hello to the training camp. In a few days, you will enroll with the freshmen of this class. The freshmen of this class, Xiaoling was extremely curious, are there many of them? There are many people in each class, Pei Ziyan patiently explained to her. The emperor's training camp is the best training camp in the entire entertainment industry, a holy place in the hearts of all children who want to be big stars. The exams every year are very strict and layer by layer screening, only those who pass the screening can enter the training camp, but even so, there are many people. Screening, do I need to take a test? You don't need it, Pei Ziyan said, you are mine. Oh. Xiaoling held her pillow and rolled on the bed for a while. Then she suddenly raised her head and looked at Pei Ziyan with bright eyes. Brother Pei, I want to participate in the screening. Why? Pei Ziyan raised his eyebrows slightly. If it were another child, it would be too late to be happy when he heard that he could enter the emperor without taking the exam. Why would he want to participate in the screening? Selection competition is fierce. Xiaoling bit her lip, I want to see if I am good at it. You all say that I sing well, but I have never seriously competed with others. Didn't you win the last midsummer flower viewing party for celebrities? They did it for your sake that time, Xiaoling said. At that flower viewing party, even though Pei Ziyan ordered all the famous disciples who gave her flowers not to tell her the truth, he couldn't help but have enemies. Pei Jingyu and Pei Jingshan, as soon as they found out the truth, they couldn't wait to tell her, and even scolded her for being shameless. I want a fair competition based on my own strength, she looked at Pei Ziyan pleadingly, I don't want to be scolded for relying on you for everything. Who scolded you? Pei Ziyan's tone was a little heavy. Sister Jingyu and Jingshan and the others. Xiaoling bit her lip again. I understand. Pei Ziyan didn't say much, he just told her, I'll have someone help you register for the training camp trials, so you can prepare for the competition with peace of mind. Yeah, the little girl cheered, thank you, Brother Pei. Brother Pei, you are truly the best person in the world, she smiled, and her bright smile was like a dark cloud that could sweep away the whole world. Pei Ziyan looked at her somewhat absent-mindedly. The longer he spent time with her, the more he felt. His little girl is so beautiful. 3 updates tonight, 2 more to come later. End of this chapter.